I'm Heather Valgas.
And I'm Dr. Steve G. Jones.
And joining us today is Bill Harris, creator of HoloSync Audios and also one of the stars in the movie The Secret. Bill, thank you so much for being here with us today.
You bet. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
So today we're going to talk about the law of attraction, and the movie The Secret was about the law of attraction, but of course there's a lot of myths and a lot of preconceived notions around the law of attraction after that movie came out. So Bill, give us in a nutshell your definition of the law of attraction.
Well, the law of attraction is kind of like the law of cause and effect in a way. If you, in terms of money, if you want to make money, then you've got to do something that causes someone else to say, gee, that's valuable to me. I would rather have that than this money, and so I'll make a trade. You know, if you want to be loved, then if you love other people, they'll tend to love you back. I mean, it's not brain surgery or anything. It's you know, the criticism I have of The Secret, the way it was presented, was that it did not emphasize, and in fact it pretty much left out, the whole idea that you have to do something to get something back. There has to be that there's balance in the universe, you might say. And so they were saying, well, all you have to do is summon the wish fairy and say what you want, and then, you know, there's the new bicycle shows up on your front porch or something. And I don't know anybody who's successful, who became successful just wishing for it. Everybody I know that's successful worked pretty hard and tried to figure out, how can I be of value to people in some way? You know, a performer is being of value by becoming a very good performer, so that people are really pleased when they perform. And then people say, wow, I really like that person. I really like what they do. Just wishing for it is, you know, so there's a price to pay for everything. And there's the price on one hand, and then there's what you get for paying the price. And The Secret just left out the paying the price part, because most people don't like paying the price. When I'm teaching people how to be more successful, which is really part of, you know, the law of attraction, I emphasize whatever you're going to do, there's a price to pay to have it. And a lot of people don't want to pay the price. In fact, the way I usually say it is, for any outcome you want, there's a certain way of thinking and acting that will get it for you. You just have to find that way of thinking and acting, and then you have to adopt it. And finding it isn't that hard these days, because everything's on Google. You can, you know, and the people that have that kind of way of thinking and acting, they have courses, they have books, there's all kinds of ways to find that out. It's the adopting it that's hard. Because most people, not most people, but many people find themselves saying, well, I don't know if I'm willing to do that. I don't know if I'm willing to change the way I believe, or change the way that I make decisions, or change what my values are, or whatever it is they have. And to those people I say, well, this is the price to pay to have, you know, to get that, whatever that is, back in terms of how the law of attraction works. And if you're not willing to do it, then just be happy the way you are. Don't go around just saying, well, I want to, I got to learn how to do the law of attraction. If you're not willing to do, you know, you have to do your side of it before you attract whatever it is. I didn't even like the word attract, because it kind of implies that you're not really doing anything, you're just attracting it. And I've had letters from people who said, you know, I saw The Secret 50 times, and I wrote down what I wanted, and I put it on my altar, and I've been putting it out in the universe every day, and I still don't have it. What am I doing wrong? And then I have to say, well, whatever it is you want, there's something you're going to have to do. I mean, it starts with thinking.
Yeah.
Everything begins with a thought. If I want a glass of water, I have to first think, oh, I'd like a glass of water, and then my mind, you know, gives me some choices. Well, I could just go into the kitchen and get it there, or I could, gee, I have some bottled water, and you start getting ideas about it. But then you have to do something. If you just, I want some water, and you just stayed sitting there, and then every once in a while somebody comes along and then brings you some water, and you go, wow, you don't have to do anything. That's amazing. So.
Well, you had to walk into a restaurant or something and sit down in order for that to
Or you had to
happen.
look thirsty.
Yeah.
Lisa Nichols, I met her in Hawaii. She was doing a talk, and she summed it up really well, exactly what you're saying. She says, there is no genie.
Absolutely. I say there's no wish fairy.
I think what there might be, though, as far as, if we're going to use the word attraction, and let's just use it for a second, once you have the thought, once you have the desire that you want something, you attract opportunities in the sense that your perspective changes and you notice, okay, here's the opportunity for, well, maybe not something as basic as water, but let's say a new job. All of a sudden you notice, you're looking through the want ads, this is a perfect job, or you might know somebody, or that right connection happens because you're open to it and because your perspective has shifted.
I absolutely agree.
Okay.
If you say, I want a new job, then what happens is you begin saying to yourself, hopefully, some people don't do this, but you begin saying, how can I get a new job? So your mind begins to generate ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Gee, I could look in the paper, I could look on Craigslist, I could ask some people that I know if they know anything about a job. I could just sort of keep my ears open. But you get ideas. You also notice things that you wouldn't have noticed before.
Right.
It's the same phenomenon as you buy a new car and then suddenly, I didn't really
You
notice
notice them
that
everywhere.
everybody else is driving this kind of a car.
And the same
But-
color.
Yeah. So you begin to notice resources you could use, and you notice opportunities. And then the fourth thing that happens is that you become motivated. By thinking about, I want a job, it begins to generate motivation. And so then if you take action based on the ideas, based on the noticing the opportunities, noticing the potential resources, and feeling that motivation, you actually do something, then you have a pretty good shot of attracting a job.
Right.
And then there's the other part of the job thing is, if you don't have very many skills or talents or some way to be of value to people, then just wanting a job and just putting it out to the universe isn't going to be enough. There's people protesting because they want the minimum wage higher, and I'm thinking, okay, now that's one strategy to get more money, is you go out and you organize a whole bunch of people to create a big change in the society where the legislature gets together and forces people to pay you more. That's one strategy. Now, to me, that seems like a sort of a shot in the dark, because how often can you get huge numbers of people organized to make the government do something for you and all that sort of stuff? Or you could just on your own initiative, with nobody's permission or anything, you could just say, what skills would I need to have, or what talents would I need to develop if I were to really be worth more money, so that I just walk up to an employer and say, hey, I could do this for you to solve these problems. And they'd say, hey, I've been looking for that. How much do you want to do that? And you'd say, well, I want $25 an hour or $100 an hour or whatever it is. And they say, well, that's worth it to me. So why not become valuable enough that it's a slam dunk to get more money? You don't have to ask anybody's permission to do that. And then once you have that value, you're always worth at least that much. You can keep, but unfortunately we live in a society where there's this underlying idea that everything should just be given to people without, that's sort of the anti-law of attraction. No, you don't have to do anything to attract whatever it is. You just need to ask. That's sort of a...
Yeah, ask, believe, receive,
So I think that the law of attraction, the way it was described in The Secret, unfortunately is not a very good message for the people that don't yet know how things work in the world. They don't understand why some people get more, achieve more, whatever, and to just tell them, well, all you have to do is put it out to the universe, all you have to do is wish for it, is kind of cruel, because those people need someone to say, look, I want you to have what you want. Here's how it works, though. Here's what you need to do.
So you're saying that it's not magic. You got to get off your butt. You got to make things happen. You got to get out there. Honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And some people may have a hard time hearing that, because I think they just want to think it's some thing they're sending out while they sit around doing nothing.
Right. If you don't think you're worth it, or that you can do that, it's easier to reject that solution and then when somebody tells you, oh, you know, if you just put it out to the universe, you say, oh yeah, that sounds a lot better to me.
Yeah.
Only problem with it does sound better.
The results are different.
But it doesn't work. That's the only problem with it.
Yeah. If we're going to take a metaphysical approach to what you said about the minimum wage thing, just for a minute, some law of attraction teachers focus on the emotion, and when you were describing the protest route, you used words like protest and force, which we interpret as negative emotions. And then when you described the person who was just creating more value and asking for, hey, I'm worth more money to you, you're using words like value and worth, which we associate with positive emotions. So could it be that someone who is taking that approach of the protesting, they're actually, by the standards of the law of attraction, they're actually creating a situation where they're not going to get what they want because of that negative approach?
Well, that's probably true. Looking at it from a metaphysical point of view, if you focus on what you don't want, I mean, obviously that approach is kind of a negative approach because they're saying, this isn't fair, we deserve this no matter what our value. The whole idea behind that is that everybody deserves X just for being alive.
Right.
And it's not, I'm not saying at all that those people shouldn't have more. I'm just saying that, hey, the easy way to get more is to become more valuable.
Yeah.
And not only that, I know both of you know this, you know, when you becoming more valuable is lots of fun. It's rewarding. There's a challenge there, and you know what a lot of people that aren't doing something, that don't have a mission kind of that they're on, is they're missing this thing of setting up a challenge and then figuring out how to make it happen. There's, in my opinion, there's nothing in life that is more rewarding than setting up challenges and then figuring out how to meet them. In fact, neurochemically, your brain makes all kinds of rewarding neurochemicals and hormones that make you feel great when you do that. And the more great you feel from all that, the easier it is for you to keep doing that. And so it really is true that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, but it's not because somebody's doing something unfair, it's because that evolutionarily we reward ourselves with all these feel-good neurochemicals that make us more motivated and happier and more pleasing to other people, so people want to work with us. And you know, so if you're on the downward cycle of that, you have to do something to get yourself on the other path. And I don't think that being angry and protesting is probably going to do that. And also, it's not a very efficient way to get what you want. And you know, to look at it metaphysically again, Napoleon Hill talked about all this, and if people are focusing on things in this sort of negative way, if they do, let's say that somehow they do organize everybody to raise the minimum wage, they haven't really received that extra money because they became more valuable. And in a metaphysical sense, you could say, like Emerson said this, that you know, all debts are always paid. You know if you work hard and you're not compensated for it, is On Compensation is the name of the essay. You both have probably read it. If you serve a greedy master, serve him all the more because all debts are repaid and you'll be paid interest on top of interest. So, you know, there's many famous stories of someone who was working really hard for a crappy boss, and somebody else noticed him and said, "Wow, I'd like to have that guy working for me." Charles Schwab, who became Andrew Carnegie's right-hand man, was working as a little schlub in a bank, and you know, he was spotted by Carnegie, and he ended up being a multimillionaire and started U.S. Steel and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So, but actually I sort of went to the other side of the coin. If you are paid something that you're not worth, somehow or other you'll end up having to pay for it. And I mean, this is a very metaphysical view of it, but
Yeah.
you'll end up having to pay. And when you get something before you pay for it, it's sort of like you're accruing negative interest, and the payment for it ends up being greater. Whereas if you pay in advance for something, before you've received it, you've paid, you know, you've gone the extra mile, you've paid even more, then you end up getting more than what you paid for.
So in theory, if you've got a job where you're being paid $10 an hour, but you put in $25 an hour worth of value and effort into that, eventually you're going to be rewarded in some way.
In some way, someone is going to notice that. You're going to get benefits from having done that. You're going to feel better about yourself. You'll start making some of those feel-good chemicals. There's all kinds of ways that this thing works. But you know, to turn what you just said around a little bit, if you're earning $10 an hour and you want $15 an hour, but you're not doing $15 an hour worth of work, why should you get $15 more
Right.
an hour? I
Yeah.
mean, the person that wants $15 an hour should start doing $15 an hour worth of work, and just have faith that it will come. And you can't be doing it begrudgingly. You know, going the extra mile really means doing it with a positive attitude and
Right.
doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and you eventually become so valuable to the company that they're not able to do anything without you. I've had that situation where I've had people work for me and become so valuable that to lose them would cost me more money.
Mhm.
So they work themselves into a better position.
Well, you know, Babe, who came with me on this trip, she came to me, 24 years old. The only job she'd ever had was in a clothing store. She was very interested in the internet and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, like a lot of young people knew all the gadgets and she knew more about my industry than I did. She was lurking around at everybody's websites, looking what they were doing, all this sort of. And over the last 3 years, she has, right now, almost everything in the company ends up going through her. People don't come to me and ask questions; they go to her and ask questions. And she didn't even, you know, she learned all the things she needed to know to be that indispensable on the job, because she took the initiative to do it. I'm usually the last one to leave, but she is there until I leave, and she often comes in on the weekend or works at home at night if there's something to do. And I'm not telling her to do that; she's just doing it. And so now she makes more money than everybody at the office almost, and she is indispensable.
She's worth it.
And she's worth it, and she'll make more and more money, and she's learning all kinds of things. Because she's been that way, I have mentored her a lot and taught her a lot of things, and I've let her sort of look over my shoulder as I make executive decisions and things like that. So there's things she's learning from this that come from how she has comported herself that she doesn't even know she's learning at this point.
She's become very valuable. And you and I were at a seminar together, and that's how this happened, this interview, and I approached you and asked if we could interview you, and you said, "Have you met Babe yet?" And then somebody came to you the next day and was talking to you, and you said, "Have you met Babe yet?" So she handles so much stuff, and she's made herself very valuable.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she's smarter than I am, so that's what.
Always good to hire smarter people.
Yeah.
And I'm right there with you with the internet stuff.
Yeah.
Got to hire the youngsters.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's great. So, but you know, yeah, we covered a lot of ground about the
We
law of
appreciate
attraction.
that.
you know,
Absolutely,
it's
yeah,
really-
and some great tips and some new ways of thinking about it that you've brought to the forefront. Now, if people want to follow up with you, find out more about you and what you do, where do they go?
Well, they would go to centerpoint.com, and center, you have to know how to spell Centerpoint though.
With the E.
It's the word center, the word point, all one word, but there's an E on the end of point, centerpoint.com. And we haven't really talked about the main thing that we do, and I don't know how much time we have.
Go for it.
But I started off by helping teach the Dale Carnegie sales course many years ago, and then I taught a course about Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill stuff for a while that was very popular. But I was always interested in meditation, and to make a long story short, I came across two pieces of research. One was research on the brainwave patterns of meditation that had been done by the world-famous Menninger Clinic and also by the TM, Transcendental Meditation people, so that they knew what the brainwave patterns were that people were making when they're meditating. then I ran across this research article in scientific journal, Scientific American, which used to be, it's a pop psychology magazine now. They own that name, but it used to be a research journal. And this guy researcher at Mount Sinai Medical Center, Gerald Oster, published an article describing a way that you could change brainwave patterns using certain combinations of pure sine wave tones that were delivered to the brain through stereo headphones, so you could target certain things to one side of the brain and certain things to the other side of the brain. But it was, the long and short of it was that you could change brainwave patterns. And so I said, that's interesting. These are the brainwave patterns of meditation. This is a way to change brainwave patterns. Could I change them into those of meditation? And if so, what would that be like? And would it work? What would we get the same benefits? And I had been meditating pretty disciplined way for quite a while, 16 years at that point, and I was blown away, and my number of friends of mine that were kind of playing with it with me. And when I started it, I was a very angry person, very difficult to get along with, unhappy, depressed a lot, anxious, a lot of personal problems, low emotional quotient, like off the chart low. And after a while of meditating in this particular way, God, my anger drained away, I stopped being depressed, all these things changed, my mind became clearer, and by then we had about 150 people informally using it in Europe and a lot more in the United States, and people started coming to me and saying, you should create a structured way to use this and make it available to people. That was in 1989, and so on my kitchen table I just started this little thing, low aspirations. I was making about $30,000 a year at the time, and I thought if I could make another $30,000 a year, boy, that would double my income. That would be fantastic. I couldn't even imagine $60,000 a year. That's just like a fortune. That's what I was thinking. That was the limits of my vision. But at this point, we have over 2 million people in 193 countries, and it's become quite a phenomenon. As a result of that, I was asked to speak at the United Nations, and I've spoken with the Dalai Lama, and most of the top personal growth teachers, and many doctors endorse Holosync, the name of this technology. And so, how this applies to what we've been talking about earlier is that any kind of meditation makes you more aware. And Holosync, we have found over the since I started playing around with this, it's been about 28, 29 years, it makes people aware and brings all these other benefits about 8 times faster than traditional meditation, which is
That's awesome.
Which is really pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And one of the things you become aware of is stuff like what we've been talking about. In other words, you see this mechanism we've been talking about, and you can see when you're on the wrong side of it. It's not that somebody told you, it's not knowledge about it, it's that you can see yourself behaving in a way that is bringing back to you a lot more of what you don't want. And then you can also see pretty clearly how it's like this law of attraction, if it's correctly described, is kind of a basic law of how the whole universe works, and not just with humans. I mean, it is sort of a law of cause and effect. And once you see that with awareness, not know about it, not just see it with awareness, then you just kind of fall in tune with it. So I did read about this sort of stuff, but I really got it when I saw this from the perspective of awareness that was created by using Holosync.
Yeah.
There's many other benefits of Holosync other than just seeing the law.
That's awesome. And you know what? And we're going to talk more deeply about that in another recording, that if you are watching this, you also have access to that. So we're going to find out a lot more about meditation and Holosync. So thank you so much, Bill, for being here with us.
You are very welcome. Very welcome.
Thank
I'm
you.
Heather Vale-Goss,
And I'm Dr. Steve G. Jones.
helping you heat up your success at hotsuccesssecrets.com.